I'm gonna win this one.
Guy tries to kill you and you want his job.
After Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher's career was done. The movie had been received so badly that he went from blockbuster director to scraping together whatever projects he could find. One of them was Tigerland, a film about a training camp before soldiers ship out to Vietnam. Just a handheld 16mm camera and a cast nobody had heard of. One of those unknowns was Colin Farrell, playing a rebellious draftee. Watching the film now, you can see exactly what he'd become. The performance is full of charisma that jumps off the screen. You're watching a future star before anybody knew it. The movie got positive reviews but completely bombed at the box office. Schumacher shot the whole thing on handheld 16mm, trying to make the boot camp feel gritty and real. And a lot of the time it works. You're right there in the mud with these guys. But sometimes the camera just shakes too much. You stop following the story and start noticing how cheap everything looks. Schumacher wanted raw and visceral, and he got it about half the time. The other half, he just got hard to watch. Japan made a war film in 1971 that might be one of the most haunting depictions of combat ever put on screen. It's called Battle of Okinawa, and it captures the misery of war with this harrowing, almost documentary-style realism. It makes you feel like you're watching actual footage. In Japan, they praised it for its anti-war message and battle sequences, but in the United States, it barely got released. Limited theatrical run, no real audience, and it's been overlooked ever since. The documentary approach is what makes it so intense. There's no Hollywood filter between you and the horror, but there's a narrator throughout the film who keeps explaining what's happening, and after a while it gets tiresome. Instead of letting the drama unfold and trusting you to follow along, the movie keeps telling you what to think. It's one of the most devastating war films ever made, and it's a shame they kind of chose to think we as viewers need this hand-holding. Fury had everything going for it. Brad Pitt, Logan Lerman, Michael Pena, John Bernthal, all fully committed as members of an American tank crew during World War II. The film focuses just as much on their bonding as it does on the combat. There are genuinely tender moments within all the bleakness, and they work because the movie earns them through this gritty, grounded realism. It found commercial and critical success, but nobody talks about it as one of the great war films, and there's a reason for that. The final act throws everything out the window. All that grounded realism the movie built up just disappears. The ending turns into this melodramatic Hollywood bloodbath where the characters suddenly feel like action figures instead of real men. You're watching a tank crew hold off an entire German battalion like they're superheroes, and it doesn't match anything that came before it. The movie spent 2 hours earning your trust and then cashed it in for a big dumb finale. They shot this in actual war-torn areas of Liberia. The cast was local, and reportedly some of them were real former child soldiers. Everything about Johnny Mad Dog feels uncomfortably real because in a lot of ways it was. The film forces you to confront what happens when kids are handed guns and drugged out of their minds in an unnamed African civil war. There's graphic depictions of murder and drug use involving children. It was never going to find a mainstream audience. It's one of the most difficult watches out there. Critics praised it for going where most filmmakers wouldn't, but there are moments where it crosses from necessary realism into something that feels gratuitous, where you start wondering if you're watching important cinema or just exploitation. It's a hard movie to recommend because you're never quite sure if it actually earns everything it puts you through. Someone decided to make a war movie where American soldiers get dropped behind enemy lines the day before D-Day and discover that the Nazis are running zombie experiments. That could have gone horribly wrong. War drama crossed with zombie horror is a hard balance to pull off without the whole thing becoming a joke. Overlord actually makes it work. It's got an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. It switches between taut military action and all-out bloody horror without ever feeling uneven. The restraint in the first half makes the zombie stuff hit harder when it arrives. The problem is the movie couldn't resist falling back on typical zombie tropes. It sets up this wild premise about Nazi resurrection experiments and then doesn't push it far enough. Instead of going somewhere truly weird with the idea, it retreats into familiar zombie movie territory. They should have committed harder to what made the concept interesting in the first place, because when they do lean into the strangeness, it's great. Most Vietnam movies don't bother showing you the other side. The North Vietnamese are just targets, a faceless enemy for American soldiers to fight. We Were Soldiers actually tried something different. You see their commanders strategizing. You understand their tactics. They come across as intelligent, capable people fighting their own war for their own reasons. And it goes further than that. It gives real weight to what war costs on both sides. Not just the soldiers dying, but the families back home, the wives getting those telegrams. That's harder to pull off than it sounds, and We Were Soldiers mostly gets it right. But then it keeps undercutting itself. It keeps slipping into this heavy patriotism that works against everything else it's doing. It's trying to show you the horror of war and also kind of celebrating it at the same time. So there's this guy Desmond Doss, a combat medic in World War II, and he refuses to carry a weapon. He's a conscientious objector. He wants to serve, but he won't kill anyone. The army doesn't know what to do with him. His fellow soldiers think he's a coward. His commanders try to get rid of him. Then Okinawa happens, one of the bloodiest battles in the Pacific. Doss is up on this ridge, no weapon, just his medical kit, and over the course of the battle he saves 75 men. Kept going back into the fighting, dragging wounded soldiers to safety, lowering them down the cliff on a rope. He became the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor. Andrew Garfield plays Doss, and the performance walks this impossible line between genuine and corny without ever falling on the wrong side. Mel Gibson directed, and he does not cut away from anything. The battle sequences are brutal in a way that feels almost unbearable. The weak spot is how it handles the Japanese soldiers. It's not that it ignores them, it doesn't. But whenever they show up, it's mostly just to die in graphic ways. For a movie that's otherwise so carefully made, that blind spot is hard to ignore. Ray Mendoza was a U.S. Navy SEAL in the Iraq War. A few years ago, he decided to make a film about what he experienced, so he co-wrote and directed it himself. The whole thing is based on his memories and the memories of the guys he served with. You can feel it immediately. The way the soldiers talk to each other, the mess when things go wrong, none of it feels like Hollywood. It feels like someone's memory. Critics loved it, gave it a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, but mainstream audiences barely noticed it existed. Because Mendoza is telling his own experience exactly as he lived it, there's no political context, no backstories for the characters, no Iraqi perspective at all. Some viewers found it almost empty, like a very intense documentary rather than a complete film. Werner Herzog directing Christian Bale in a prisoner of war movie. That should have been huge, but it bombed at the box office and most people have never seen it. The film is based on Dieter Dengler, a German-American pilot who got shot down over Laos during the Vietnam War and was captured by villagers. Herzog doesn't soften anything. The starvation, the desperation, the claustrophobic reality of captivity. It's all there. Bale physically deteriorated for the role and you feel every bit of it on screen. It was one of his best performances. Herzog admitted he changed historical details to create more dramatic tension. That might be fine for most people, but the actual survivors weren't happy about it. Some came forward specifically to criticize how they were depicted, how their real struggles got distorted for entertainment. When you're making a film about people who are still alive, that kind of criticism is hard to wave away. Enemy at the Gates has one of the best premises for a war film, a sniper duel during the Battle of Stalingrad. Jude Law plays Vasily Zaitsev, a legendary Soviet marksman. Ed Harris plays the German sniper sent to hunt him down. When the movie focuses on that duel, it's incredible. The tension just keeps building. The battle sequences are superbly shot. Everything about the sniper storyline works exactly the way it should. And then someone decided this gritty sniper thriller needed a love triangle. Zaitsev falls for a female soldier. So does his best friend. None of it is based on anything real. It's completely fictional, dropped into the middle of an otherwise grounded war film. Every time the movie cuts away from Law and Harris to deal with this romance, you can feel the air go out of it. It's like two different films stitched together, and you keep waiting for the soap opera to end so you can get back to the part that actually works.